What's good, guys? This is Vahagraphy. I'm Vahagan, your rock and roll photographer. In this video, I want to share a conversation I had earlier this afternoon with Christopher Becker, also known as the Becker. He's best known for his relaxed portraits, his portrait work, his branding, his marketing, just a good dude all around with great ideas. And he's a big influence in my photography. So I had the privilege of sitting down and we had a conversation with the guy, and in this video I'm going to share that with you all. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. We talk all things photography. We talk, about a lot of things. So it was a great conversation, and without further ado, let me roll the tape. And by the way, guys, this instrument right here, this is called a dahol. This was actually given to me by a family member, and you know what? He wasn't using it, so I took it, and I'm going to, jam on it a little bit and practice. Anyway, I'll roll the tape right now. Enjoy the conversation with Mr. Becker, the Becker. All right, guys, rock and roll. All right, well, hello. Christopher Becker.
What's up, V?
What's happening, Becker? Man, I've been a big fan of your photography for probably about a decade now. First time I met you was at the WPPI in Vegas, probably, I think it's 2010, maybe before that. And, before that, how I found out about you, before all this Facebook stuff, there was a DP review.
Yeah.
Forum. So I actually was reading the forums, and I actually read someone's question was like, can you guys list me 5 of the top wedding websites there are? I want to check out other people's photography. So there was 5 links. Somebody had posted 5 websites. One of them was yours, and I checked out all 5, and I guess your work and your website really caught my attention. And from there on, I was like, man, this guy's cool. I can relate to this guy, Whereas like other photographers were like, their work was amazing, but they really didn't have the way to like present and, talk about their photography. And then I quickly found out about your little videos that you would put out and stuff. Those 2-3 minute videos, the B school back in the day. Your photography is amazing, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a website in 1995, like literally like the early days of the internet, when you used to have to explain to someone what a website was. I'm like, you could go on your computer and look at my pictures. It's fancy, and then again, I just started, because I didn't know what a website was. A guy who I went to high school with, I graduated in 91, and I ran into a buddy that I went to high school, and he knew I was a photographer. I was working at a photo lab, and he came in to drop off film for his dad, who was like a amateur photographer, but really he had Leicas, and he was a really enthusiast, really good photographer. But he was picking up film for his dad. He goes, do you have a website? And I said, what's a website? Oh man, you got to get a website. And so I'm like, okay, cool, sounds great, make me a website. And so he took a bunch of my pictures, he scanned them back in the day, because this is way before digital. And like I said, I had a website up, and it was just so crazy. Like the day my website launched, well, the very next day I got a phone call from a bride in Florida, and she's like, hey, can you come down to Destin, Florida? And I am in Southern California. And I'm like, do you not have photographers in Florida? And I didn't really say that, but I was thinking that. But she just goes, I really like your work, and we'd like to fly you in. And they pay for the airfare and the hotel and the rental car and all that stuff. And then, and then I realized that she just hired me. She asked me what my deposit was. And I just, I think back then it was like, $2,000. And so, okay, great. Yeah, no problem. And she just gave me a credit card number right there on the phone. And then I realized after I hung up, I was like, she didn't even ask how much I charged. She just wanted me. And so I kind of whipped up some new price sheets, and I raised my rates a little bit. And then I sent her the rates like on the email or whatever. And she just picked the top one anyway. And I'm like, oh, I could have charged even more, but I just remember going down to that wedding, because I never met the couple, and I show up at their rehearsal dinner, And she was like bragging. Well, all these people came up, oh, you're that photographer from Hollywood. And I'm like, well, I'm from Orange County, but I guess close enough. But I thought to myself, she's been bragging to all of her friends that she flew her photographer in. And so everyone automatically just assumed that I was like a big deal. And I was like, you know, some hot shit photographer. And which to me gave me a lot of confidence. And I showed up and I tried to take really good pictures. And I did. I think I did an amazing job at this wedding. It's down at their plantation in Destin, Florida. Absolutely gorgeous. Again, all in the film days and stuff like that. But I shot some, I think, pretty good photos. It was like portfolio piece for sure.
Was that your first gig?
No, that wasn't my first gig. That was the first one that I flew to. That was the first destination wedding that someone flew me to. Yeah. And so that was in 1998. So my website, I had a website in 95 or whatever. I had it, but then when I put my wedding website up, like it was like boom, right up. But it was actually just before Google was actually officially a company. She found me on Yahoo, because Google wasn't even a thing. And but I shot this wedding. Actually, gosh, I think it might have been 97. I don't know. It's all a blur. It's a long time ago. But again, I just went down there, shot this wedding, and everyone was just so stoked. And again, they paid top dollar, and then they ordered a bunch of stuff afterwards. And I was a young single guy at the time, so I'm like, look, I'll just travel around and shoot whatever. And then I shot weddings in Mexico and the Bahamas and Virginia Beach, and I mean all over the East Coast. Then I was in Napa Valley and Arizona, and I was just flying.
That's awesome.
And it was like so cool. And I just thought, wow, this is something I really enjoy, and people seem to like my work. Yeah. And again, as you said, it was all about that personal branding. I knew there were a lot of photographers who are, technically more creative than I am, that had a better eye, but it's all subjective, right? But a lot of them, they didn't brand themselves as well as I did. And so that's why I was able to book all these big weddings, and I traveled all over the world. And people thought I was probably better than I actually was. But I always tried my best. I always tried to do my very, very best. And then I also tried to have a really consistent style. A lot of people were all about being creative and funky and artsy and out there. And I was like, man, I want to deliver my brand of photography week in and week out. Yeah. So that way they know what to expect when they hire me, that I make these brides look gorgeous. One of my taglines was guaranteed gorgeous.
Yeah, you have this way of like your style is like, you have this way of bringing out the best in who you're photographing.
That's what I try to do. I actually apprenticed for a fashion photographer for a long time before I even got into weddings. And he really taught me how to see light and just see the direction of light, how to take a flattering portrait of somebody, and then like lens selection and stuff like that. And then he also was the one who convinced me, like back in the day, it wasn't Becker photography, it was Becker photographer. It was like I was the product. I was selling myself. I wasn't selling pictures, and I was the talent. And we sold ourselves as artists. Yeah. And so when people I would show up at these weddings, and I think the reason I look back on my career, the reason I was so successful is because I made the brides look beautiful. First, I mean, they're always going to look beautiful. But because like I said, I knew how to find the right light, the right lens, the right angle on their face. And then I felt like I was also really good at making them comfortable in front of my lens. And I was trying to be personable and friendly. And I wanted to make the bride look beautiful. I want to make the bride feel beautiful. And so whenever I was shooting with them, I was flirting with them. We were having fun. We were laughing. And they would get their pictures back, and they're like, oh my God, I look amazing. I'm like, you're damn right you do.
So yeah, your stuff, like I said, you have this style that's just so amazing to look, so natural, relaxed. Like you say, relaxed portraits, right?
Yeah, that's what I called my thing. Relaxed portraits, relaxed portraits, amazing details, and real moments is what I sold.
That's beautiful. And when I look at a Becker portrait, you pretty much, I had brides come in and show me kind of what they were looking for. Mm-hmm. And your picture with a bride in her lingerie, I think, with the
flowers.
Yeah, that's probably the most shared image that I get from brides. Hey, can you do this?
I haven't looked in years, but the one time I checked, it had been shared on Pinterest over 100,000 times, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And that
one, and there's a famous image of you. I mean, not with you, but a naked man on the beach.
Oh yes, down in Cancun. It was a friend's wedding, and if you look really, really closely, he's actually wearing a Speedo, but because it's a black and white image, it blends in with his skin. But yeah, and it was really funny because that particular wedding, the bride absolutely loved me. The groom was so mad that she spent so much money on me, because it was like, oh my gosh, we paid him how much to come down to Mexico and shoot this wedding, and he was kind of rude to me all day. He was over it. But
Oh,
then when we were shooting the portraits and this guy just started walking by, I just kept shooting. And it was the first time all day that the guy actually laughed, because he's like, dude, this guy in this tiny Speedo is like walking me. And so I got, again, a real moment, that actually happened. And the funny thing is, I had all these other photographers send me like a knockoff version. They tried to like pose
uh,
that, like, hey, somebody go behind there and this and
uh,
that. And
you
but that was
you can actually see their faces. It's just like
yeah.
an
Well, because
exciting moment.
they were just laughing, and there's dudes just walking through their photos. And I'm like, I'm keep shooting, I'm not like, oh, wait for that dude to get out of the photo. It's like, no, that is the photo. And again, it was like I swear, out of that whole day, that was like the only series of like genuine smiles that groom gave me. The rest of the day, he was like scowling at me because she paid me thousands of dollars to come down to shoot that wedding in Mexico.
So
Yeah,
what
so
you have this thing where like with you, I feel like it's not about the gear. It's everything about the gig and how to interact with your clients, you know.
yeah, I liked gear. I loved technology. We were early adopters to digital. We were fully digital in 2001. And like, so we jumped right in, and I definitely liked gear. I liked toys. When I was single and I didn't have kids, I bought all kinds of toys. Now I have kids. You can't just spend all your money on camera toys, but like, yeah, it was like, it was just a tool. And it was like, okay, let's find, I thought the glass was always more important than the actual camera. Having good glass was really important. But for me, it was like, again, if I can find good light and get people to relax and not get that like fake smile stuck on their
Yeah.
face, like I
Yeah.
could take a good portrait, and I think my gift was making people feel comfortable in front of my lens. Because
Yeah,
sometimes you
that's
stick a big old 70 to 200 in someone's face and they kind of tense up. They're like, that thing's big, get that out of my face.
yeah.
But I would always just, again, have fun with them, and I'd try to use my personality and just joke around and be self-deprecating and just goofing around.
Yeah,
And again, I
that's why I tune in to your stuff back in the day when you would post. There's little 2-3 minute videos every day.
mhm.
And that's why I would want to hear your interactions with your clients, the back end of photography, not necessarily the lens or camera you use. A lot of these
Yeah.
guys on YouTube, they talk about gear. That's all they
Yeah,
talk
they get
about.
all, yeah. And
The
there's a
late,
market for that. Some people are really into the gear, and it's
yeah,
like, okay,
the
but the
latest,
gear,
greatest thing. And then
yeah,
it's like, do you actually shoot? Like, have
yeah.
you ever actually interacted with the client? Because I could be
Well,
I use a 12 to 15-year-old camera. I use a Nikon D4, it came
oh
out in
well, okay,
2012. I still
yeah,
use it,
it's
you know.
great.
So,
Still, killer camera.
but like to
But I,
me, sorry, to me, it's like interaction and being just run and gun. That's the challenge a wedding poses. But with
mm,
you, it's like you make it seem so easy. Do you ever have brides that are like not so, like they're nervous and they're like, where you see that nothing's working? What do you do in those kind of
well,
moments?
again, to be honest, as I look back at my career, people say that, oh, I don't do weddings because of the bridezillas. And one of the things that I did is like, I never let bridezillas hire me. Like if I met a bride and she seemed like a bridezilla, I'd be like, sorry, I'm not available. You seem like a pain in my ass and this isn't going to work out. But I think the kind of people that were attracted to my style were the people that were, I think, pretty laid back, pretty cool. They just wanted good photography. They wanted to enjoy their day. They didn't want their wedding day to turn into a full-blown photo shoot. I mean, granted, we're going to take time for those family pictures. And of course, I want to get a nice shot of the couple together. But for the most part, it's like, look, have your day. Every once in a while, I'll let you know if I need a little attention. If I need you to look at my camera and smile or laugh, I give them some direction. But again, I think my gift was, again, making people feel comfortable. And just I tried to show up at every wedding as if I just was an old friend who happened to have a really fancy camera. I'm like, guys, just have fun, do your thing. Hey, look over here, right here. Oh, get into it. Hey, pinch your butt, squeeze, just I would just try to make it light. And again, especially since we did switch to digital, like some people talk about like spray and pray, and just and I always joke around, I'm like, hey, every once in a while, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. I shot very, very heavy. I would shoot lots and lots of images. And what I loved is I would shoot all these images, and then I'd edit out all the crap, the out of focus, the blinks, the ones who didn't work out. And I'd still deliver 1,200 or 1,500 images. And I love when the bride goes, oh my God, every single shot turned out. I'm like, every single one. You didn't realize that I threw away 5 out of 6 shots,
Yeah.
But that was just kind of my thing, and it worked. And like I said, it was all about making them feel comfortable, trying to capture the moments. And I knew a lot of photographers who, again, they were really technically great photographers, but they either didn't have a personality or they didn't understand branding or pricing, and they had a hard time. They struggled to make money, even though they were great photographers. But some of them, they were just kind of an asshole, and like people didn't want to be around them, and people don't want to invest that kind of money.
Mhm.
And so that's why when I started the B school, it was out the business of photography and the branding. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of ways you can go out and learn about photography. I was never like, a lighting professional or the off-camera lighting. I still get confused with that, but it's like I figured out what worked for me, and I realized like it's a lot more is about, again, how you actually deal with the customers, how you sell yourself, how you
Yeah.
present
Yeah.
yourself. And that's what the whole B school was about. It's about the business of photography. It wasn't Becker school, it was the business school. And
Yeah.
we had a great run, and I really enjoyed making those videos, and I did all that, and we had a good run. And gosh, it's crazy because we ran the B school for 7 years, and then just this past January, it's been closed for 7 years. So it's like I haven't done that in a long time, but I still get people like, oh, I remember those B school videos. Oh, I met my friend, and there's people that have got together and got married. They met on the B school, and it's kind of fun to see people that are still connected all these years later. So
Yeah, I've mentioned you a few times on my videos.
okay.
Because you've been a big influence in my wedding photography career, like I said, and you're on stage it's like you're performing, like what you were saying with like, oh, everybody's looking at you, your personality when you're dealing with the client or the bride or even the guest, mom and dad. But I kind of like to look at it as like, for example, a singer, right? A singer might not be the best vocalist, but he's amazing because like he has a big following and he works the room. He's an entertainer.
He has a presence.
Yeah.
So if
So
you think about it, think about one of the most popular bands in the whole world. A lot of people say Bono doesn't have a very good voice,
mm,
but Bono has stage presence like nobody else. I mean, he gets on, people go crazy to hear him sing, and his voice is like, I mean, I like it. I'm a huge U2 fan, but like if you were gonna like if he would lose on like American's Got Talent or American Idol, like he would not pass anything. He
yeah,
couldn't sing
if
these
he was an
crazy
unknown.
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like, but he has this presence.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the kind of the same thing. I felt like in my real life, again, like growing up, again, I was like overweight. I wasn't very good at sports. I wasn't really good at anything. Then I finally, again, I started doing the school newspaper and yearbook, and photography was like my jam. And so I always thought of myself like in my regular life, I really thought of myself as like Clark Kent. But when I showed up to a wedding and I had my camera, I felt like I was wearing a cape. I mean, I literally felt like Superman. Like I was going to show up at this wedding. I had so much confidence in myself. I had so much belief in myself. And so I kind of had that presence where it's like, hey, I am going to show up, and man, these brides are paying me a ton of money. I'm going to do the best job I possibly can. I want to take these pictures that they're going to love. But again, more importantly, my first goal, and I would always tell this to my second shooters, and they would go like, huh? Like my first goal is not to get good pictures. My first goal is to make sure the bride and groom are having a good time.
Uh,
Because if they are having a good time, the pictures are going to end up turning out. Because like you can tell when someone's like got a fake smile, you can tell when someone's uncomfortable, you can tell all that stuff in photos. So it's like if they're having fun, and my favorite shots at the weddings are the ones I picked off with like the 70 to 200 or 300 2.8, and I shot it from 40 feet away and they had no idea I took it. Those
mm,
are the photos that I love, the real moments, unscripted, not just like, hey, smile, look at the camera. So
yeah.
it's just been, like I said, it was just the whole thing. Had this whole persona built around it, and again, it was really, really good to me for a long time, and I absolutely loved it. And
Well,
photography, I still love photography. So
photography is giving you the opportunity of going to places you probably would have never gone to. It's giving the
yeah.
opportunity because I listened to your last podcast with Simon,
Oh yeah.
and I guess you mentioned that you met your beautiful wife if it wasn't for photography, right?
Yeah. It'll be 10 years this summer. I had never been to St. Louis in my entire life, and I came for just a little photo conference that just some local photographers organized. And they had me come out and do the little keynote speech, and there's maybe 125 photographers, 150 photographers or something like that in this room. And I came and I did my talk. And as you knew, like at that time, the B school was kind of popular and I had a following, and so anytime I went somewhere, like we'd have a little B school get together, or because I'd been on stage at WPPI or SWPP in London, or these different places where I did these speaking gigs. And because I had those little videos that I'd post up on the internet, on the B School blog, even before B School started, I had like a following. And so every time I went somewhere, like they would, hey, can I get my picture taken with you? And it was like, sure. And I post for pictures for, hundreds, if not thousands of photographers over the year. And this girl came up after my little talk and we got a picture together. And I was like, we look good together. I'm like, text me that picture. And I got her number like that. So I thought it was pretty slick. And I was like, hey, I'm in town for another day. We're having a B School get together tomorrow. You should come. I just invited her along. And then we, maybe, a dozen photographers showed up at this get together. And then later that night was a Cardinal game. The Dodgers happened to be in town. I'm from Southern California. I've never been to Busch Stadium. I'm like, hey, I'm going to the game. Who wants to go? And it was a Monday night. So people their kids had school the next day or whatever. I think school was starting right then. But I'm like, she didn't have any kids. I'm like, you're not going to make me go to the game alone, are you? And so we went to the ball game and we just had our third kid a month ago. So,
congratulations.
It's like, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So how's that like being a dad, 3 kids, and you moved from Orange County to like St. Louis?
Yeah, I right before the whole pandemic happened last year, right at the beginning of 2020, I did a blog post like going back on the last decade. So my life in 2010 versus my life in 2020. And it was like back in 2010, I was almost 300 pounds. I was living in Southern California. I was a wedding photographer. I was single. I just whatever. But then fast forward 10 years, here I've lost 100 pounds. I've got 2 daughters at the time. I've been married for a few years. I'm living in the Midwest. My life is completely different. I still do a little photography, but it's not my main business anymore. And I just thought like, wow, what a crazy 10 years. And then, like I said, it's awesome. I'm loving life. We're just outside. We're about a half an hour west of the St. Louis Arch in a little suburb outside of St. Louis. And again, like I said, just had the third kid 4 weeks ago today. I'm still kind of catching up on sleep and I'm tired. And,
wow.
I've got a girl who's almost 6 and then a little girl who just turned 3. And we thought we were kind of like done with diapers, but I'm like, oh, not anymore. Here we go. We got a little boy now. So life's good. My wife is awesome. I can never stop talking about how great she is. Everyone's like, you moved from Southern California to St. Louis? I'm like, have you met my wife? Because she's pretty cool.
Yeah. What do you miss from Southern California? What do you miss the most?
Well, I miss the weather the most. Okay. Well, I shouldn't say that. I miss my family, right? No, I do miss my family. I miss a lot of my friends. I definitely miss the nice Southern California weather. What I don't miss is the traffic. Every time I go home to visit my parents, the traffic is like crazy. When people complain about traffic in St. Louis, I just laugh. I'm like, there's no traffic here. It's crazy how like, oh, it slowed down to 40 miles an hour. That's traffic in St. Louis, right? But I don't miss the traffic. I don't miss the taxes in California. And it's like, it is weird. Like I've been here now almost 7 years. And so home is wherever my family is. I don't care where we live. If we move somewhere else or we do something, it's like where my family is, that's where home is. And for a while I was getting back to California all the time. We haven't traveled much this past year, as most people haven't. But I still would go back and shoot some weddings here and there. I still shoot some weddings on the East Coast. My wife and I shoot together. She's actually a super talented photographer. And again, like I said, because I've been kind of transitioning my career a little bit, I kind of like, I'm basically her second shooter now. And if you pick like her top 2 packages, you get both of us. If you pick her bottom 2 packages, it's just her. So now that way there's an incentive for people to pick the higher packages. And then we still have so much fun when we shoot together. And again, it's like friendly competition. We're always like trying to box each other out to get the shot. And we're just we have fun with our couples. But then I love it because like when I'm done shooting, I'm like, here's the card, babe. See ya. And I never do another thing.
Editing, right?
I haven't opened Lightroom in forever. I rarely touch Photoshop. I don't do any of that. So it's kind of nice. And I still love to shoot. I love to show up at these weddings where people are dressed up, they're looking good, they're having a good time. And like I said, it's cool working with my wife. And even though it's a work day and we're working for 8 or 10 hours, it's like, oh, it's a day away from our kids. It feels like a day off, Yeah. And so whenever we go to shoot a wedding, it's like date day, we're going to a wedding, And so
and getting paid.
Yeah, and we get paid, and like I said, and like the fact if we're both of us there, they picked one of the bigger packages, so that's good. And like I said, we just have a great time with our couples, and it's been really nice. We've been like I said, enjoying life, and and still get to travel, still book some weddings here and there, you know, Tennessee or Florida or, you know, Jamaica not too long ago. We still we get out of the house every once in a while. So it's
That's
nice.
cool, man. That's cool. What I've noticed about you is that you actually take your time and help beginners out a little bit. You know, you want to share your knowledge out. A lot of photographers, not a lot, but some photographers, they're really good, but they're like kind of, you know, cocky and arrogant. And,
Yeah.
you know, you're really cool. You know,
Well, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, you're like,
Um,
you can have a conversation with you, you know?
I've always tried to be approachable. I remember when I was starting out and I had just met Joe Photo. Again, he and I had the same photography teacher in high school. So when we met, we had this instant connection because we both loved our photography teacher. His name was Jay McElwee. We had this instant connection. He was such a profound influence on our lives. And again, that was right when I was getting into weddings. And he was also just getting into weddings. So we started hanging out and going to lunch and, you know, just talking shop. And then we went to a local PPOC, Professional Photographers of Orange County meeting. And we went and we were nobody. Nobody knew who we were. And we just wanted to meet some people. We wanted to learn. And we went and this guy did his presentation. He was showing all his work. And, you know, the guy was really good. He was one of the most popular guys in Orange County at the time. Top dollar, Newport Beach studio, like top of the line stuff. And he was just showing all this stuff. And again, here I am. I think I was 22 years old at the time. Eager beaver, so excited. I brought a little, remember Art Leather? They had those image boxes. It just held 10 little 3.5 by 5 photos
Yeah.
on these little mats. And I went up to him afterwards. I said, man, I really loved your presentation. I loved your work. I'm just starting out. Would you mind taking a look at these 10 images and just let me know what you think? He looked at me and he said, I don't think so. And he turned and he walked away. And I was like, what a dick. I mean, what an a-hole. I was so blown away. And I thought to myself right then and there, I said, if I ever made anything of myself, I wanted to be the kind of guy that was lifting people up instead of trying to push them down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the crazy thing is, like, yeah, again, I had like a chip on my shoulder, and that guy, he was an a-hole. I did not like him. And so it was funny because not less than a year later, we started competing for the same jobs because I kind of worked up the ranks and got in with the good venues and the good wedding coordinators. A lot of times the brides would go and meet with both of us, and they almost hired me every single time. And it wasn't because his work was bad or mine was better. It's just, I think I had a better attitude and I had a better approach. Like he was like more traditional, like very, you know, very traditional classic photography. And I was like, hey man, let's just shoot some PJ. And again, it was like the times were changing a little bit, but I was nice to like shoot these or get booked over him like left and right. It was like, oh, that felt really, really good.
Yeah,
But
you have this approachable personality where like I said, I would never, if you were like that guy, I would never have followed you, or you know.
yeah, I think a lot of people like that. But here's the other thing, you know, I realized in high school that I had the kind of personality that people either loved or hated. And at first it really bothered me. And then I was like, okay with it. And now I actually kind of enjoy it. You know, I know not everybody likes me because a lot of times a lot of times people are, you know, I'm very vocal. I have opinions and I share them. And anytime someone shares their opinions, people like it or don't. Like you take someone like who just passed away, Rush Limbaugh, had such a huge following. So many people loved him, but then so many people hated him. And I'm kind of like that in the photography world. There's a lot of people that, oh my God, thank you so much, Beckers. Thank you so much. And then I had a lot of haters too. I had a lot of
Really?
people that did. Yeah. I
Why do you think
had a
that
lot
is?
of, well, again, I don't know if it's people didn't know me, they didn't understand me, they didn't like my attitude, they didn't like that I was sharing all these tips with new photographers because a lot of
Oh
people were
yeah.
like keeping it close to the vest. I mean, I don't know. And then some people just think I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
I had a
I think of
guy.
that line from Die Hard 2. He's like, oh yeah, I'm an asshole. I'm just not your kind of asshole or whatever. So it's like, hey, it's all good.
Yeah, I had a guy from my local market ask me, why are you doing these videos? What's the point? Like that, you know, because I started, I think it's been about 9 or 10 months now.
Okay.
So, and I'm having a blast. And, you know, yeah, I do my gigs, I do my weddings and my photo shoots now. But I'm doing this to help other beginner photographers out. That's my thing. I think what you're doing inspired me to kind of do my thing too now. So
yeah,
awesome. So I really appreciate that. And so I want to go ahead and ask you a couple of questions.
Go for it.
About, you know, photography, but so basically your portrait work is excellent. Your headshots, you have this relaxed kind of style. What is your go-to focal length for portraiture? And what is your go-to lens?
Well, like I mentioned before we started recording, I recently switched to Fuji from Canon back in the day. I have an X-T3, which is weird because I like the small little camera and it's mirrorless, but I'm back to a crop sensor. And I switched to, you know, when the original Canon 5D came out in 2005, I've been full frame for the last 15 or 16 years, right? And so it's weird to have a crop lens again, but Fuji has a 56 millimeter 1.2 lens, which is the equivalent of an 85 1.2. And that lens is so buttery. It's like, it's just so amazing for headshots and portraits and stuff like that. So that's pretty much all I use these days. I
Hmm.
also have a little wide angle lens that I got with it and stuff, but I rarely use that because again, I'm not doing that much photography now. And then if I'm second shooting for my wife, half the time I'm using her Canon equipment, and then I'll just pick up the Fuji intermittently throughout the day when it calls for that, like, oh, hey, it's time for a portrait. Let me get this bride. But I always love that 85. I love a shallow depth of field. I like to focus right on those bottom eyelashes, their faces, boom, perfect focus. And of course, I've got them in good light because I don't shoot people in bad light. I just don't do it. You know, I'm like, hey, let's move over here for portraits. Obviously, if it's a photojournalistic shot, you have to do with whatever's happening. But when it's time for portraits, I can always find the good light, and then it just blows the background out of focus so the people stand out. And then again, if those eyes are sharp and the skin just turns creamy, beautiful skin tones. Because the bottom line is, like, I know there's all these photographers these days, and like the whole thing is all about shooting these creative portraits, these funky angles, shooting through things, around things. And that's fine. That's cool. But I think what I've learned in my years of photography is people want to look good in their photos. They want to look, everyone wants to look attractive. They want to, like, oh, hey, girls want to look pretty. Guys want to look handsome or rugged or tough or whatever. They want to look good. And I know still, I look at a picture of myself, I'm like, oh, I don't like the way I look in that. That's a bad photo. I don't care what it is. If I look bad, that photographer sucks. No, you know, but I
Yeah.
always want to make people look good. So it's like good light, the right length, focal length. And then again, then it's like, can you bring it out of them? Can you bring one of my favorite tricks? So I'd be shooting the bride when we switched to digital, right? So I'm shooting the bride. All the bridesmaids are standing around because we just shot like we shoot the group of bridesmaids and then the bride with each bridesmaid and all that stuff. And now I'm just the bride, but everyone's still standing around. And I would just shoot the bride, work it. And, you know, I'd take these pictures and I would shoot it. And then what I would do is I would show the bridesmaid the back of my camera. I would never show the bride because women, you know how they can be, they're super critical and they're like, oh, I hate the way I look. But if you show the bridesmaid the picture, what is she going to say? Of course she looks beautiful. And then once the bride now is getting
Good point.
validation from her friend, oh my God, you look amazing. Or if the mom's standing around, I show mom and she's like, oh my gosh, that's so good. And of course it's only this big on the back of the camera. So who knows if I even got that one in focus. But the point is, it always looks good on the back of the camera. And I wouldn't have shown them one where they blinked or anything like that. But what happens is then the bride, oh, mom approves, best friend approves. Now I feel even more beautiful and I go right back to shooting her because now she's like glowing and she's working it and she's just like, again, like I think to get a good portrait, it's not enough to just get it in focus and properly exposed. It's like, can you get that expression?
The expression, yeah.
Are they excited? Do they feel good? Do they feel beautiful? Are they excited to get married? All those kinds of things. And so that's what I always look for in the portraits. And then when it comes to the portraits of the couple, I always know. I always say to the guy, hey, look, bro, I know you would rather look at her than look at me and my stupid camera, right? So
Mhm.
most of the time I got them interacting, kissing, biting, licking, playing, and everyone's like, hey, look right over here, you know, and I'd say stupid stuff and I would get them to laugh. I'd oftentimes I'd like tell the bride to stick her finger in his ass, you know, and people would like just crack up. Now I wouldn't say that if grandma was standing around right there, but I would just get them to laugh and like be real and, you know,
Yeah,
and like I said,
I had
have
an
fun.
older guy. I was doing a photo shoot, you know, portrait studio shoot, and he was an older gentleman, and it was in a country club.
Mm,
So he was really stiff, and you know, he wouldn't smile, he wouldn't do anything for me. You know, he would say like, "When is this going to be over?"
yeah.
So I was like, "Okay, how do I get this guy to, you know, break the ice?" So I'm like, "Give me a look like you just hit a hole in one," and his face
Yeah.
just.
Oh, bet. Yeah. That's the thing. You have to just be able to relate to people. And yeah, if you could get them excited about something or,
Yeah, you know, find out what they like, you know,
mhm,
so yeah, so a bride comes down and sits with you and is, you know, you're discussing the booking process.
mhm.
What do you do when brides start saying, I want this, I want that, show you pictures of other photographers, I want to, how do you deal with that?
Hmm. Yeah, that's actually a good question. And I haven't had to deal with that in a while because, like I said, I don't really book the weddings myself. My
Yeah.
wife's usually booking them. But what I did is I felt like when I was booking weddings, and this is one of the things that I taught in the B school, is like whenever a bride calls you or fills out the form on your website, like if she fills out that form on your website, you need to know that she likes your work. Okay. So have a little bit of confidence because out of all the websites she looked at, she contacted you. If she didn't like your work, she wouldn't have contacted you. So a lot of photographers forget that. And then if they call you, they definitely like you. And then if they come and set a meeting with you, they really like you. And so like that was the thing. If I could get someone into my living room, I already knew they liked my work. And now it's just like, hey, can we connect on this level? And for the most part, I kind of would like I'd have people come into my living room. Again, I was down there in Mission Viejo. I had turned my I worked out of my home and I turned my living room into a gallery and I had like the cool, like the two wires with the little lights and the frames. And it was really nice. And I had a flat screen TV like way back in 2003, set up the speakers, surround sound, and I do a slideshow. And it was all about this presentation. But I was like, this is what I do. If you like what I do, hire me. If you want these other styles and other things like that, that's really like hire somebody else. So I was kind of like that. It was kind of like take it or leave it. Now, if they had a still request like, oh, hey, I've got 4 generations, or I want to do this shot with my sorority sisters, fine, absolutely. And if they'd show me another shot and oh, I really like this. I'm like, well, yeah, if you could hire Jerry Gahonis, go ahead and hire him. He's really expensive. He's more than I am. But so every once in a while you deal with that kind of stuff. But I just said, hey, if you like my collection of work, I'm pretty dang consistent. Might not be the most creative photographer out there, but I promise you I'm consistent. And so I never dealt with that too much. I
Were
would
you
get that
always
from
like that though? Were you always like
well,
that?
I realized once I figured out my style and I figured out this is what I'm trying to do. Yeah. And again, that's what I learned again from that same fashion photographer. It was like, figure out your style and then just do that
Mm,
and just be the best version of yourself and don't try to copy all these other people. And I
mm,
still went to a lot of different photography workshops because a lot of my friends gave them and they invited me to either come for free or hang out or whatever, or, and I would say, oh man, I could see someone in particular, like Jose Villa or Jesh. They had a workshop in Santa Fe, New Mexico called Blend. They did it with Nate from Images Found back in the day. So I went to Santa Fe, New Mexico. The 3 of them were putting on this workshop. And again, I respect all 3 of them so much for different reasons. Their work is all incredible. And I'm looking at the stuff. And again, it was cool because I had a couple of my friends were actually in the class with me, took a bunch of notes, got a bunch of ideas, got super inspired. But then at the end of the day, I'm not going to go home and try to be Jose Villa or
mm.
Jesh. I'm going to go home and still do my thing. Now I might twist things and do it, try a little something different just to mix it up a touch. But like I had to be the best version of me that I could be. And because it's like you can try to copy somebody else, but you're never going to do a very good job copying someone else. Like why not
Mm.
just be an original? So I
Yeah.
didn't really care about that. I didn't care about being creative. I cared about being consistent. I wanted my brides to again look and feel beautiful. I wanted them to go like, oh my gosh, that was so painless having their pictures taken. I wanted to make sure that they actually enjoyed being photographed by me. Because that was the whole thing. My favorite sentence in the world was when some bride called and said, hi, I was a bridesmaid in so-and-so's wedding. It was like, great, which package do you want? Because I know they're going to hire me. I just know they're because they saw me in action and they saw the pictures and they're calling me. So that means they liked the pictures and they liked working with me. So it's like, well, which option would you like to choose?
Wait, I have a
And
question for you as far as
okay.
that. If somebody says, I have a budget, what's
Mm-hmm.
your response?
Well, again, everything's dependent. Like, so I was never one of those guys, like I would never discount like, oh, you're getting married next Friday. Well, it's like next Friday, the chances of another wedding coming up are slim to none. How much did I want the money? How much did I want the work? When I was single, yeah, hey, I would make a little deal here and there. But for the most part, if it was a Saturday next June, it's like, here's the rate. You pay it or
Yeah.
not. And
Yeah.
to be honest, the way I had it worked out with my packages, like you couldn't even book the smallest package unless it was inside of 90 days. Like, no, you had to at least get that. But then also that was the other thing that I did with the B school is I was really good at the pricing and putting good packages together. So I had all my packages. And I think like in my entire career, only like 2 people ever picked my top package, it was, over $20,000. So it's like, it wasn't the $20,000 wasn't to book. It was to make the $15,000
To
package
look
look
good.
affordable. And then the 10,000 was like a steal. And, you know, and like almost nobody even took my bottom package because the next package up was just such a good deal. Like,
Yeah.
so I think back then I started at $6,000. Nobody picked that. Cause if you can spend $6,000, hey, for 8,000, you get an album and this and that and whatever. So it was like, it was a no brainer to spend 8. And so, and I was thankful that again, I didn't get a lot of budget brides. The people who wanted me, like I had a reputation, I was kind of well known. I would shoot all these USC and UCLA sorority girls. So depending on it was like go Bruins, go Trojans. I liked them both. You know, it's like whichever the bride went to school, I didn't care. I like both those schools. You know,
You
but
were
like
one of those guys that posted your price, like your starter price on your website.
yeah, I think it's really important to put a starting price because what I didn't want was when I didn't have a starting price, I'd have people call, hey, I want $1,500. I'm like, well, I can show up for 15. I can show up for 15 minutes and eat your food, but I'm not going to take any pictures for $1,500. So, you know, so I didn't want to waste my time. So I'd say, hey, starting here, most people spend around here, or you give a range. I think that's a good thing to do on your website is give some sort of a range. But ultimately it came down to like, if you just put your straight up price sheet where they could download it, I think that's a bad idea because then it's like, then they just start shopping numbers and it's like comparing numbers to numbers. Hey, you can always remember there's always going to be someone cheaper than you, always. And there's always somebody better than you. Okay. But what you don't want is you don't want somebody who's cheaper than you to be better than you.
Yeah.
You know, so that was the kind of thing. The guys who were better than me were better than me, and they were also charged a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like I was a very good value. And then that was the whole thing. If I could get them on the phone or get them into my living room, I felt it was pretty much a done deal because I already knew they liked my work. Otherwise, they wouldn't have set the appointment. And now it's just like, hey, do they like my personality? Some people don't. I know it's hard to believe, but some people don't think I'm as hilarious as I think I am. Some people thought I was cocky or arrogant or, you know, not funny but the couples that came in and when they looked through the sample albums and I would tell the stories, oh, this happened and that, and they were looking at the pictures and I'm telling the story of the wedding. They're envisioning, okay, this could be us. Are we going to look this good? Oh, look at these moments. Look at this stuff. You get to the picture of the family portraits, really simple, nothing creative, just very clean. Hey, we got to take a couple of these pictures for mom and dad. You know, they want to look nice. They want a really standard. I'm not shooting funky, artsy photos for family portraits. We want you and grandma. Grandma wants a nice 5x7 that looks clean and good. And I was super good at getting that kind of stuff. And, you know, and then the reception, like, guys, just go have a party. We'll, you know, we'll let you know if you need some attention. But, and if you got some college friends and you want a candid, just give us a little heads up. But we like to just blend in, have fun. And then again, I love those shots, the first dance shots where they're just forehead to forehead and they're just soaking in the moment. And those are the photos that make a difference, as opposed to like, look at the camera and smile and pose. Like that's kind of lame, you know? So
a lot of weddings these days, you know, especially now, they turn the whole wedding into a photo shoot. It's like,
yeah,
fun,
well,
guys. You know?
yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of like these styled shoots and these, it's just kind of, oh, let's just get these Pinteresting moments, you know, and try to do that. And it's like, you know, I mean, I get it. It's what's going on. And that's why, again, I'm kind of grateful that weddings aren't my full-time deal anymore. And the thing is, I still love shooting weddings. I hate doing Lightroom and making albums and doing that stuff. And then so too, when I moved from Southern California to St. Louis, it was a bit of a transition because again, here I was in Southern California. I was well known. I was making top dollar. And then I came to the Midwest where people don't spend as much money. And I met with a few couples and I thought I was like, hey, here I am, this kind of big shot photographer from California. I'm just going to come to the small little Midwest town and take over. And that did not happen. You know, people came in and they said, you charge how much? And it was like, people were like shocked. They'd look at my middle package. That's our entire wedding budget. And I was like, oh, well, this is different. Now, again, thankfully it is a lot cheaper to live here. So I'm able to lower my prices and still remain profitable and stuff. But like I said, my wife handles everything like that now. And so we have like, she has her website. I kind of actually just took down my website. We have a combined website where you can go to the Beckers and see both of our work, you know? And so it's like, hey, if you like our work, contact my wife because she runs the show. She's the boss. I'm fine with that. And then I get to show up at these weddings and again, have fun and take pictures and go, here's the card, babe. See ya. And I never, ever talk to the couple again. It's kind of nice. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So that's definitely, a lot of people don't like that. You know, like me, I hate, you know, going through images in Lightroom and, you know, I hate that stuff. I love shooting like you, but you know, What kind of advice you give real quickly for a beginner photographer? I know you developed your own personality and style. Um, it took a little bit of time to do that, but a lot of beginners, they want to start out in photography. And what advice you give beginner photographers?
Well, one of the things I give to anyone in any field, no matter what, is never stop learning. So I think of those Dos Equis beer commercials where he's like, "Stay thirsty, my friend. Like, never get content." Because I think too, what happened for a while, like I was shooting and I was doing these really nice weddings, and I just got really content. I was like, "Man, all these weddings are just coming in, and I'm networking with all the coordinators, and weddings are just coming in, and I'm making money." And then I just got really lazy. I just got like, "Hey, this is cool." And then that's when I kind of started working on B school, and started teaching these other people like, "Here's all these things that you need to do." But then I stopped doing it myself. I stopped doing what I was telling these people to do. And then I was like 2 years later when the wedding stopped coming in, I'm like, "Wait, what happened?" I'm like, "Oh shit," because I wasn't doing what I was actually known to do. So I think one of the things I always thought was every week you try to make like last week's pictures look like crap. It's like, can you get better
Wow.
technically? Can you take better pictures? But then also like work your personality into it. It's funny because I come to St. Louis here and I've second shot for some local photographers, and it really is kind of, in a way, it's kind of humbling, because here I am, this big established photographer, and now I'm second shooting for someone who's, I would say, not as good a photographer as I am. But again, I'm thankful for the work, and it's like, it's fun. I still like shooting. And again, I hand off the card at the end of the day. So it's great. But
But
I've
you
had
second
several.
shoot for others?
Oh yeah, I second shoot for
No
local
way.
photographers all the time. Yeah,
Oh,
well,
wow.
I was new in town. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know the venues, and so I was like, "Hey, whatever, I'll shoot." And it's not a
That's
ton of
great.
money, but I was like, I just wanted to shoot still,
No,
and
I
that
know.
was, like I said, when we moved to town. But it was really frustrating because, like, I'd be the second shooter, and I always try to, like, I don't like to step on the main photographer's toes, and but I just do my thing, take the best pictures I can. And I had said so many brides or the bride's moms, "Oh, I wish we would have hired you instead of the other photographer." I'm like, "I wish you would have do, but hey, whatever. What can you do?" But there are some great photographers. The people that I second shoot for now, they're actually really good photographers. I don't really second shoot for any crappy photographers because I just don't want to. I just don't want to deal with that. I
Yeah.
like to go to. I second shoot from some of the better photographers in town, and it's fine. And like I said, I'm not too proud that I'm like, "Oh, I can't ever be a second shooter," because I was. But like I said, and again, photography is not my main career anymore. So it's like I'm kind of moved on from that, and it's like, "Oh, I can go shoot a wedding. Cool.
That's
I have
cool.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it." So
So I get that question asked a lot. How I'm a beginner. What camera can I buy for 100,000? That's the most generic question anybody could ask.
yeah, I don't even care about that. It's like,
Yeah,
get a
I know.
camera. You know what's really good? The iPhone Pro takes really good pictures. I mean, it really is.
So-
So I don't care about gear anymore. I don't pay attention that much to gear. I did mention I yesterday I we went to a birthday party. We actually got hired to shoot a birthday party yesterday. And then we went to another birthday party that my daughters were invited to, and we showed up to that. And they're friends of ours who are also in the wedding business. They do mostly video. But she just said, "Hey, would you mind taking a couple pictures?" And I was like, "It's kind of like my day off, and I just shot this other job." But she had the new Canon R6, so I was like, "Ooh, I do want to check this out." And so I just started taking a couple of pictures with it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this camera is insane. It's so good. It's like what you see on the back of the camera is exactly what the file looks like." And it was so fast focused, and it was just so fun. And so again, I was getting kind of geeked on the gear, which I normally don't. But that R6 is like, one thing. Like I said, I switched to Fuji like a year or two ago, and now I'm like, "Babe, we need to get a couple R6s," because that, I think, again, it makes you excited about photography again. And
Do you
but
shoot?
again,
Do you use the EVF or the LCD mostly?
oh well, with Fuji, I just shoot from, I don't ever put it up to my eye anymore.
Can't get used to
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah. A lot of times I just shoot. Yeah, I just shoot there. Now, okay, if I'm shooting a portrait, if I'm shooting those 85, like the headshots, like you got to get it right on that bottom eyelash. Especially if you're shooting at 1.2 or f2, shallow depth of field, I will bring it up to my eye. But the Fuji has killer face recognition or eye recognition software. And so it pretty much nails it. Like at my daughter's school, I did the school pictures for all 77 of these kids. I've done it the last couple of years, and it's like I just put these kids on a stool, I put them in some nice light, we get a little reflector, it's all outdoor, background blown out of focus, trees, all. And I shoot these kids, and it's just getting these little kids to not be shy and to laugh at my little jokes, and I'd say fart and booger and whatever. But that camera is just nails on the focus. That
Yeah.
Fuji's really good. But like I said, I had a really fun time with this R6 yesterday, and I'm like, babe, we might need to get a couple of these cameras because that seems kind of fun. But again, going back to your original question, new photographers, it's like the gear doesn't matter so much. You need to be able to build your brand, let people know what you're about, and then again, you have to be able to sell yourself. I knew tons of photographers too that had great photography, crappy website. You have a crappy website these days, you're not getting hired. You know,
Yeah.
they're going to hire someone who looks more professional. It's like, oh, your work looks really good, but your website makes me think you still live in your parents' basement, and you're either not going to get hired as much, or you're not going to get as much money as you could because you just don't seem as professional. You don't seem like you're as good.
Yeah.
Because remember, you're only worth what someone's willing to pay. And when you have a nice brand and consistent imaging and all that stuff, and a cool story or a message or a whatever, some angle to what you're about, what makes you different, what makes you special, then people go, oh yeah, hey, that's why I'm hiring this guy.
No,
Because again,
nice.
I'm going to be guaranteed gorgeous. I am going to get these relaxed portraits, these real moments, and tell a story.
Yeah, that's
And
very good advice, Becker.
cool.
Is there a gig that you would drop everything for? Like, for example, I'll give you an example. You're doing weddings, whatnot. But is there a gig, if you get offered that gig? For me, it's like, okay, if Metallica asked me to, you know, go on tour with them and,
Mm.
cap that kind of gig, or be the president's photographer for 4 years. Is there a
Oh, I
gig, your
love Pete
dream gig?
Souza. Yeah.
Is there a
Pete
dream
Souza was,
gig?
well, I mean, there's a lot of things that I mean, again, I followed Pete Souza's work. He photographed Obama for all 8 years, and his work is insane. I still follow him. And, I mean, I would love to photograph you too. I would love to shoot concerts, but what I really love now, what I love about photography is, for my whole life, it's been my profession, and it's also been my hobby. And so what I want is to just take pictures because I want to take them, not because someone paid me. So I don't know that there's a dream gig, like paid gig. I mean, I'd do it. Hey, if someone wants photography or this or that or whatever, and I'm available, and okay, sounds good. But like what I ultimately envision is, I love the work of like Steve McCurry, the National Geographic guy. Joe Foto and I went to India 10 years ago. We went in 2011. We were at SWPP, and then we just went to India for like 8 days, and literally just had a backpack and a little small camera bag. And we just photographed the people, the buildings, the sights, the textures, and just shot the most, I think, some of my favorite photos I've ever created in those 8 days. And then also had just an awesome time hanging out with my best friend, and we were traveling, and it was so cool. Didn't get paid a dime, didn't care. And that's why I go to Burning Man every year, or I did, until last year, and they canceled it. But it's like, I
Yeah.
love to go to Burning Man and just to shoot all the crazy people, the people, what I'll call the beautiful people, the interesting people, the out there, the funky art. And then every year I get these just insane photos. But again, Burning Man, the whole thing is not being about commerce. You're not allowed to sell the images, and it's like, that's fine. I take these pictures because I like to take them, and it's fun. So I don't know that there's a dream photography gig for me these days. But again, to be able to travel, I just told my wife, like, I would love to take her to India. I would like to go to Cambodia. I would like to go to Nepal, just on photo safari and do street photography. I don't care if I get paid. I just want to shoot because photography is still super fun. But then it would be nice, like, oh yeah, hey, we get this, you get famous enough or whatever, and then people buy your art or whatever, or buy your coffee table book. That would be cool.
Uh,
So
yeah, no, definitely. If somebody offered me a dream, like, because I love music and rock and roll, but I want to,
yeah,
I do weddings for the paycheck, but
yeah,
I would love to shoot more musicians in their natural state.
yeah.
That's my thing. This is a rock and roll photography channel. I gotta ask you, are you a big music guy? Like, do you like rock and roll? Like, we
Well, again, I
growing
told
up?
you I'm a huge YouTube fan. I've been following them forever and stuff. And again, talk about Anton Corbijn, their photographer who photographed them for years. And then he photographed like every other band in the world. So I have a bunch of his coffee table books. Right behind me, this bookshelf is all photography books. And then I have two other books where I collected just photography coffee table books. Then over here, I got all my business books that you can't see. All back there is my nutrition books. There's more business books in the middle. So I have an Amazon.com addiction, but I have basically like four different book collections. Well, three: photography, nutrition, and then business, Those are the books that I collect. And I love, like, one day I want to have a coffee table. I don't care what it is. I was just looking at pictures a few years ago. I went to Kenya with my church and just took pictures of that trip and just photographed the people. I love that kind of stuff. You know, I shoot my fine art nudes. I've done that for a long time. And that would be cool to have some of that work published one day, all black and white, you know, cool stuff. And
You're a big movie guy. I mean, shows and stuff, right?
yeah,
So,
I mean, I love quality entertainment. I love if it's a good movie. Like I don't usually like all the superhero action movies that are
mm,
fake. I like something with a really good story or really compelling or really entertaining. But yeah, and again, I do love music, and it's funny, I don't listen to the radio anymore. I listen to my playlist, the bands that I like, the people that I listen to. And then it's like these days when I go for a walk or I'm at exercise, I usually listen to a podcast. I'm not listening to as much music because I'm just still trying to learn and, you know, do that. So when I have my downtime, it's more about
yeah,
podcasts than music these days.
yeah.
But it's funny
I'm
because
a
now when
Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I said when I got the kids in the car, the kids have their signs like, so I'm listening to a lot more Taylor Swift than I'm used to. And because
Yeah.
my kids are loving that and, you know, whatever. I'm playing kids all my like 80s flashback music, and my wife thinks it's atrocious, but my kids love it. They love Rock Me Amadeus and, you know, putting on the Ritz from Taco, that kind of crap, you know. So
Yeah. I'm a big Rush fan. So,
oh
you know, Neil Peart, he passed away in
yeah, he
January
just passed
last
away.
year. Man,
Yeah,
he was an amazing person. I mean, not,
he
I
was an
mean,
amazing drummer. Yeah.
drummer, but like he was a lyricist. He was an
Mm,
author. I mean, he just had this one saying, one quote where he'd say, "I'm not really that good, but if I'm relentless at practicing, I might just be okay." But
mm.
at the same time, he's like, well, being the best rock drummer in all of like the world, and an amazing person. And I kind of put that into my photography. And you know, do you ever find like you need to practice your what you're doing, like when you're
Well,
you know,
that was always my thing. Whatever I did, I tried to do it to my fullest. You know, like I said, growing up, I wasn't good at sports. I wasn't the best student or whatever. But again, I took a high school photography class and I did the school newspaper. And the guy who ran the school newspaper said, "You're really good at photography." I had no idea whether I was or not, but he told me I was, so I believed it. And so I got really interested in it. Then I started working at a photo lab, and the guy who owned the photo lab was like, "Hey, cool." And he yeah, you're good, but then he would critique me all the time, and I used to get my feelings hurt, but then I realized he was doing it to make me better. So like I never take a picture with like a tree branch sticking out of someone's head, because whenever I did that, he would say, "Hey, look at that nice antler sticking out of that guy's head." So I learned really quickly, like, hey, watch for branches in the background. But again, every week it was like, can I get a little bit better, can I get a little bit better? And you know, and that was one of the themes that I had through the B school, is like, just try to be the best that you can be. Don't try to be someone else, be the best version of yourself. And then, you know, back then, you know, that whole Ricky Bobby movie was really popular, but I was like, I love that whole, just, you got to piss excellence. No, so no matter what you're doing in life, just do it the best you possibly can. Okay. And don't worry, like, hey, not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay, but you do the best job that you can. Keep your customers happy, take good care of them. They'll give you referrals. That will bring you more money. More money makes you more freedom, that kind of stuff. And you can kind of keep growing, but it's never get content. And that's why I said earlier, stay thirsty, my friend. And that was the biggest mistake I made. I was like, I'm just kind of cruising along, and I got really complacent. And that's when all the photographer I started helping started kicking my ass. So it was like, my
oh, you
fault.
started
Yeah. So
going through the
there,
motions. Yeah,
yeah.
I get it. So right now, I was kind of in the same shoes you were, as far as like my weight. um I started seeing what you were doing, you know, and you lost like 100 pounds
Yeah.
in like over a span of when did you start? I mean, because I was 100 pounds overweight too.
Yeah, I was, again, I realized about, again, 10 years ago or so, I was really overweight. I kind of started doing a low carb diet. I lost 70 pounds in the first year, and I kept it off for a couple of years. And then old habits started creeping back in. And that's when I met my wife in the long distance relationship and back and forth. And then right before we had our first kid, I realized I had gained half of the weight back. So I'd lost 70 pounds and I gained 35 back. super bummed. I was about to be a dad. And that's when, and I was also an older dad. I didn't have my first kid till I was 41. When
Mhm.
my dad was 41, I was 20. So it's like, okay, I got to get back on track. So that's when I started doing keto, not just low carb. I lost the 35 pounds, went on to lose another 30 pounds, lost 100 pounds total. And that's when I started coaching other people. And that, and mostly it was photographers. All these photographers knew me and they just watched me like on Twitter and Instagram just shrink. And so I lost all this weight. And then I got really passionate about like, look, I was always, when I did good at photography, I started helping other photographers. And now I did really good at weight loss. And I realized how hard it is because I struggled my whole life with weight. Nothing ever worked for me long term. So that's when I started coaching others. And that's my main focus right now is I'm really helping people develop new habits so that they can not only lose the weight, but then keep it off. Because that's the whole trick. It's keeping it off is what's the really important part. And then again, focusing on their health and all that stuff. So I've been doing that for a couple of years now. Absolutely love it. And then again, I can still do photography on the side as a little side hustle.
So
But
ketocode.co.
yeah, I have yeah, exactly. The ketocode.co is a program that I have. It's a membership. It comes with a course. It comes with access to a community. So you get support, and then it comes with coaching. So if you need help, you can actually call me and talk to me or get, email me or anything like that, because I think people need to come up with a plan that works for them. And there is no one size fits all plan that works for everyone. We're all different. We all have different mental things around food and beliefs and all that stuff. And then the nutrition's a little different for everyone. And then, so it's like knowing what to do and then actually doing it. So you need some accountability, because like you could read all the keto books in the world, but if you don't actually start changing what you put in your mouth, you're not going to actually lose the weight or get healthier. And so it's about doing it, having that accountability, and then it gives you then the mental side. It's like ditching the diet mentality. I tell everybody who signs up for my program that, look, this isn't a diet. If you do this as a diet and do it for 3 months, you'll lose weight. And then as soon as you go back to your old eating habit, the weight will come back. The point is like, just figure out a way that you can eat for life. You can have a little cheat here and there every once in a while, whatever, not the end of the world, but it's like, it's developing habits that stick. And so that's what it's really all about, is that coaching, that accountability, and then just like realizing, oh, all the traditional dietary advice is pretty much garbage. And it's what's killing people. And that's why 7 out of 10 people are overweight in this country. And it's
Yeah.
like, I was one of them my whole life. I was one of them. And I'd hire personal trainers and nutritionists and dietitians, and they all gave me crappy advice. And then once I just started eating, I just pretty much stopped eating processed food, and the weight just kind of came off and stayed off. I just eat real food, meat and veggies, a lot of veggies, a lot of steak, a lot of pork chops,
Fruit.
I don't eat a lot of fruit because fruit still has high sugar. Fruit's one of those things that fruit won't actually make you fat, but fruit can prevent you from losing fat. So if you're trying to lose weight, I would limit the fruit. And then once you get to your goal weight, then yeah, go ahead and eat the fruit. I've been pretty much down to where I'm at for a while now. So like on tomorrow night is Tuesday. So on Taco Tuesday, we make shrimp tacos almost every Tuesday. And I love putting pineapple in there. And it's like, it's great. Little pineapple with the grilled pineapple with the shrimp and the butter and the garlic, super good. And of course, they're lettuce wrapped tacos, or sometimes we get these low carb tortillas that are really good. And so I have a little bit here and there, but if you're trying to lose weight, I would avoid the fruit as much as possible.
That's awesome, man. I mean, for me, it was like a guy showed me a picture of myself. Those photographers that take pictures
Yeah.
at the table and then they bring it an hour later and sell those
Yeah.
shots. He took a picture of me and he showed it to me. I was like, oh my God, So
Yeah.
my knees would hurt, my back was hurting, and I would be lazy to get up from my chair. So I said, you know what? And I saw what you were doing. And you kind of you motivated me as well with the photography and the weight loss. So thank you.
Well,
And
yeah, right on. Well, you did so good. That's so awesome. It's so funny because the one of the things that got me on my low carb journey is Joe Photo and I were out in Las Vegas and we were shooting a wedding, and they had an Elvis impersonator. And it was kind of I got my picture with Elvis because this guy was super good. He looked just like him, sounded just like him. But I got the picture back and I was like, holy crap.
yeah.
I always knew I was a big guy, but I never ever thought of myself as obese. But when I saw that picture, I was like, oh man, I'm actually obese. And I
Yeah.
hate that word, by the way. I hate it. I just hate that. It's just a gross sounding word. And I just, but then that was the thing that motivated me. I'm like, okay, I need to do something different. But your journey too, like you look at your before and after pictures, people don't even recognize you. I mean, you look
Yeah.
amazing. You're doing good. And I think what people don't understand, now that I lost the 100 pounds, I'm pretty proud of that. And I think it's cool. I don't even care about the weight loss anymore. I lost the weight. And like you said, my knees don't hurt anymore. My joints don't hurt. I can get down on the floor and wrestle around with my kids. I've got endless energy. I've got perfect health, knock on wood. I mean, everything is good. Like I'm 47 years old. I take zero medication and I just eat real food and I just avoid processed garbage. And so for me, it's not about tracking macros and counting carbs anymore. It's like, no, I just eat really good food that's healthy and I don't eat a lot of crap. Every once in a while I'm on vacation, whatever. I'm going to have a donut.
That's the hardest thing. I mean, when you're on vacation and you come back to the routine, that's the hardest thing to do, is to jump back on the routine, I think.
For me, it's not, because what happens is whenever I do have like a cheat day, it's like, oh, I really enjoyed the food, but then I feel like crap. I'm like, oh, I just feel, I can feel like gain 2 pounds back, or I just feel like less energy. So then I'm motivated to get right back on, asparagus and steak for dinner the next night or whatever, or a lettuce wrapped burger with bacon and all that stuff. So
the hardest thing is the last 15 to 20, the stubborn belly, man.
For sure. That's definitely the hardest. Yeah. So am I. I'm still working on that. It's like, but I don't care that much about weight loss anymore. So it's like, I'm not that motivated. It's about, again, having a little bit of balance. But the hardest thing is the mental thing, knowing what to do. I always tell people the program is very, very simple. Don't eat sugar, don't eat grains, don't eat processed seed oils. That's it. That is the secret to lasting health and lasting weight loss. It's simple, but it's not easy. Changing a lifetime of habits, changing these beliefs and feelings around foods, and then dealing with social situations and travel and work situations. It's hard. So that's why I think it's nice to have a coach and a little program that shows you, hey, step by step, here's how you fit it into your life. Here's how you do it. So sorry for the subtle plug there, but
no problem. No, I mean, as a photographer, I mean, I can shoot back-to-back weddings, no problem now. I'm like a fly on the wall, man. I'm all over the place. I shoot images lower, higher, I can get on my knees, no problem. Before I was like lazy and tired, and people don't recognize.
I would be wrecked for a couple of days. You'd shoot on Saturday, and on Sunday I could barely get out of bed, and on Monday I was still like barely moving.
So and I mean, thank you for that. You're awesome.
Right on, man.
I mean, go ahead and let the viewers know like where to find you if they
just the ketocode.co. So that's they can go there, and it links to everything else and stuff like that. Or again, my website is thebecker.com. if you still want to see some of my photography. I have some of my personal work. It links to our wedding work, my corporate work, and then it links back to this. So again, and I'm at the Becker on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. So like I said, I've been doing it for a long time. I like helping people. I love photography. I love nutrition. I love poker. We could maybe do another podcast about poker sometime, but no, I'm just kidding.
I used to play poker, but
it's fun.
Before we close here, I want to ask you what your worst bad beat in poker was, and how much was the pot?
Instead of what I want to do is I want the biggest pot I ever won, like a single cash game pot. I was playing out in Arizona. I had a wedding in Arizona the night before I went to the casino, and I had Queen Jack of Hearts. I remember this specifically, and the flop came out like Queen Heart. So I had top pair and a flush draw. And there was like 5 people in the pot. It was getting to be a really big pot. And then on the turn, a jack came. So now I had 2 pair and a flush draw, and we were going back and forth. Now it's just me and one guy just kept going back and forth, got all in, and the guy flopped 3 of a kind, and then boom, the river I got the 6 of hearts. So I ended up getting a flush, and I won like a almost $2,000 pot in one hand of poker, which was insane. It helped because there was a lot of different people in the pot. I think I only had about 400 invested, but it was awesome. And again, I've had some bad beats. The worst bad beat I ever had, though, I played at a casino too, right here in St. Louis, and I had a pocket kings, and the flop had king 9 deuce. Okay. And there were 3 people in the pot, the small blind, and then another guy. And then I was on the button, and the first guy just went all in, like immediately, like king 9 deuce. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I have the nuts. And the other guy called, and then I called because I had, and so he turned him over, and the other guy had pocket deuces. So he got really unlucky because I had a bigger 3 of a kind than he did. And the other guy had 9-4, but it came 9-9. So he ended up with 4 of a kind.
Oh,
and I ended up with a full house, kings full of 9s. And it was just like, it was the worst. Like if you do the math on that, like I'm going to win that pot 999 out of 1,000 times if you run it out. And it was the one time that.
Yeah, and I bet you'll never forget that.
No, ever. That's why I know it was a king and a 9 and a deuce. And I remember what the guy looks like, and I'm like, I
used to play blackjack for a little bit, and just for fun. Yeah, but I accompanied my friend. He was a gambler, so I accompanied him, and I remember he's like, okay, if I get to 10 grand, because he's a
Yeah.
big gambler, you know, he would just take me just to like, you know,
Yeah.
and I just go for entertainment. But the guy's like, if I get to 10 grand, I'm leaving. You know,
Yeah.
he bet 500 hand 1,000. So he gets to 10 grand and he's like, I'm going to give you 20%, you know, just for bringing me here. So he's at 10 and he's like, okay, I'm going to bet one more. I'm on a streak here. I'm like, dude, let's get up. Let's go, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
He goes, no, I'm on a streak. Leave me alone. I'm like, all right, whatever. So he bets the 1,000 and he gets 20. He gets a 20. He goes, all right, we're out of here right now. The dealer's showing 6. The dealer opens a 10 and a 5.
Yeah.
And, you know, he loses that. But you know what happens
course.
after that?
He
gets on sale. He loses everything. And at the end of the night, he goes to his ATM and starts withdrawing his own.
That's horrible. Oh, thankfully, I definitely have limits. And when I make a thing, if I get to a certain amount, I'm done. I don't know. I have a little bit more discipline with that. But again, I think poker is a little different than blackjack because blackjack, you are playing against the house and the house always has the edge. Poker, you're playing against other players, and depending on your skill level compared to their skill level, like I feel like I'm playing here in St. Louis, I have the edge. When I go to Commerce Casino in LA, I'm definitely an underdog. When I go to the Bellagio, I'm an underdog. That's why when I go to Vegas, I go to the smaller hotels, and then I kind of pick on the tourists, and I avoid the professionals at the Bellagio and Aria and the nice hotels and all that stuff. So
that's the reason why I mentioned the blackjack, is because when you said bad beat, I will never forget that moment in my life. That day was terrible. But if you're ever in the Commerce Club next time, I know the guy that operates that whole joint, David Mosikian. Yeah. So
okay, cool.
He'll set you up. Anyway, Becker, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure hour speaking with you. I had a great time talking with one of my, you know, major motivational influences in wedding photography. And, you know, like I said, I'll put the links in the description below of all your, you know, fat loss coaching gig that you got on right now. So
awesome. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, man.
It was good catching up with you. So I appreciate you giving me a call, and it was nice chatting.
All right, brother. Well, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again. And always rock and roll, man. Rock and roll, whatever you're doing. All right, brother.
Man, we'll see you. Bye-bye.
Take care.